He would never forget that burnt smell in the forest. Elijah Brooks stopped. He held his breath. Shadow, his loyal German shepherd, froze beside him, ears pricked, body tense. The dog had heard something, or smelled it. Deep in the forests of North Carolina, at the end of an old logging road in a place no one knew, something was burning. No, had burned. The smell wasn't fresh. Maybe 2, maybe 3 days old. Elijah's hand reflexively went to his waist. He didn't carry a gun anymore. Those days were behind him. But his body hadn't forgotten. 12 years overseas, 4 tours in Afghanistan, countless night patrols. The smell of danger was still familiar. "Easy, Shadow," he whispered. He touched the dog's head. "We're going together." Shadow walked ahead. His nose close to the ground, he was tracking. Elijah followed, silently, carefully, as his military training had taught him. Every step calculated, every branch crack controlled, and then they saw it. Amidst the bushes in the shade of old oaks stood a completely burned-out vehicle. Not just any vehicle, a police car. Its black and white paint was visible in places, but most of it was covered in soot and ash. The windows were shattered, the tires melted. The vehicle was positioned at such an angle that it was clear it had been driven here, then set on fire. Elijah's heart raced, but his face remained expressionless. Shadow growled softly. "I know," Elijah said quietly. "I feel it too. This was the wrong place. Very wrong." He scanned the area. No one was there. But those who had left traces hadn't stayed long. Footprints, tire tracks, all were from a few days ago. The rain had washed most of them away. He approached the vehicle slowly. The door was open, or had been opened. He looked inside. The front seats were burned, but the back was surprisingly intact. A metal file box stood half open, covered in ash and soot, but the contents... Elijah reached out. He wore thick gloves. He always carried them. He pulled out the file box. It was heavy. There was something inside. Shadow waited. His eyes were on Elijah, then drifted to the forest. The dog was restless. "You're right," Elijah murmured. "Let's not stay here too long." He placed the file box in his backpack. Then he looked around once more. He committed the place to memory, its coordinates, its appearance, its smell. Maybe he would return. Maybe he would notify the police. But the voice inside him, that voice from the war years, told him something else. These files were hidden before the fire. Someone didn't want them found. "And now you're carrying them?" Shadow was the first to move. Into the depths of the forest, back the way they came. Elijah followed. His steps were quick but not panicked. Controlled, but his head was spinning wildly. The burned police car. The hidden files. A place no one knew about. What did you find, Elijah? Elijah Brooks's home was a place that had nothing to do with the luxurious definition of the word home. Half an hour's walk into the forest, on the bank of a small river, it was an old lumberjack's cabin. Elijah had found it 3 years ago, abandoned, rotting, but with a sturdy frame. He had slowly repaired it. Fixed the roof, put in windows, built a small stove. There was no electricity. He had a generator, but only used it in emergencies. Most of the time, candlelight and a wood stove were enough. There was no internet. The phone signal was weak, and that was exactly how he wanted it. The world seemed too noisy to him. After returning from the war, every sound in the city, car horns, crowds of people, music, news, felt like it would blow his mind apart. He couldn't sleep at night. He avoided everyone during the day. The doctors said it was PTSD. They gave him medication. They suggested therapy, but Elijah had found something else. Silence, solitude, nature, and shadow. He had found his dog 2 years ago. Had an animal shelter, about to be euthanized. Shadow was a military dog, trained, disciplined, but considered old. He was 5 years old and the army had retired him. Most people wanted young dogs. But Elijah had looked into Shadow's eyes and seen himself, a soldier. His duty over. But the fire still burning inside. They hadn't been apart since that day. The sun was setting when they reached the cabin. Elijah opened the door. Shadow went inside. The dog immediately ran to the water bowl and drank. Elijah lit the stove. The air was starting to get cold. Then he took out his backpack. He placed the metal file box on the table. For a moment he just stared at it. The box smelled of ash. It was covered in soot and cracks, but the lock was solid. Elijah took out his pocket knife and pried at the lock. After a few tries, it opened. He held his breath to see what was inside. Files, dozens of files. Some were official police documents, headers, logos, seals. Some were handwritten notes. Some were photographs. Elijah pulled out the first file. He opened the cover. Suspect surveillance record. Subject: Marcus Jennings, 34, male, black. Inside was a photograph. A young man with his children in a park. A handwritten note was attached below. Local activist. Participated in BLM protests. Active on social media. Continue surveillance, Elijah frowned. He turned the page, more notes. Marcus's workplace. His home address. His car's license plate. The church he attended. His friends' names, no criminal record, just being watched. Filed away. Because he protested. Elijah opened the second file. Then the third. Then the fourth. They were all the same, black people. Young, old, male, female. None had serious criminal records. But they were all being watched. Some were guilty of sharing wrong things on social media. Some were guilty of going to certain churches. Some were guilty of being associated with activist groups. And underneath, the police notes: potential threat, community leader, watch, frequent visitor to black neighborhood, monitor. Elijah's hand trembled. He put the files down on the table. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. Shadow rested his head on Elijah's lap. The dog could sense it. The man's unease, his anger, his shock. What did we find, Shadow? Elijah whispered. What did we find? Hours passed. Elijah examined each file one by one. He took notes. He wrote down names. He noted addresses. A total of 47 people had been filed. Black people, illegally, secretly. The files spanned the last 3 years. Some were very detailed. Daily movements, shopping locations, social circles. It was like an intelligence operation. But these people weren't terrorists. They weren't criminals, they were just black. And they were speaking out. When Elijah reached the bottom of the files, he found something else, a notebook, filled with handwriting, like a police officer's diary. He opened the first page. We started on Chief Walker's orders. We are tracking community leaders. The list will be kept secret. Only selected team members will know. The goal: identify them before they cause unrest. Elijah turned another page. Marcus Jennings organized another protest today. 200 people attended. It was peaceful but drew attention. The chief said, "These kinds of leaders are dangerous. His file will be updated." Another page, new names added. The chief said, "Monitor those attending community meetings." The list could reach 60. And the last page, the most disturbing one, "The files are in danger. Someone is asking questions. I may need to clean up the documents." The chief said, "Leave no evidence." Elijah closed the notebook. His hand clenched into a fist. His jaw was tense. So this vehicle had been deliberately set on fire to destroy the files, but someone had saved these files. Maybe someone from the inside. Maybe a cop with a guilty conscience. And now these files were in Elijah's hands. The question was, what would he do? It was night. Only the stove fire was burning in the cabin. Shadow was lying on the floor, but his eyes were open. The dog was thinking too in his own way. Elijah looked out the window. The stars were bright. The forest was silent, but his mind was noisy. He had options. Go to the police. But these files came from within the police. Who could he trust? Maybe Chief Walker was still in charge. Maybe he was part of this system. Leak them to the press. But could he trust the journalists? Maybe the story would be buried. Maybe he would be in danger. Do nothing. He could bury the files. He could forget. He could return to his own peace, but this third option would kill something inside him. Elijah had seen it in war. People died because of injustice. The powerful crushed the weak. And those who remained silent became accomplices to the crime. "I won't remain silent," he murmured. Shadow lifted his head. He pricked up his ears. Elijah looked into the dog's eyes. "We'll do the right thing, won't we?" Shadow's tail moved slowly once. He had made his decision. The next morning, Elijah woke up early. He started up his small generator, something he rarely did. He opened his old laptop. The internet signal was weak, but he connected. The first thing he did was check the names in the files. Marcus Jennings. He searched for him on Google. He found him. He was a local community leader. He worked on school reform, police transparency, social justice. He was active on social media, and apparently he was still being watched. Shanice Carter, a young teacher. She had participated in BLM protests. She demanded justice for her students. Her file said she was radically inclined. Reverend Isaiah Brown, a 68-year-old pastor. He held community meetings at his church. He preached about police reform. His file said source of unrest. Elijah wrote down every name. He looked them all up. He found most of them. These were real people. They had families. They had jobs. They had dreams, and they had all been secretly targeted. Elijah shut down the computer. He rubbed his eyes. He had to make a decision. Step 1, he had to warn these people. Step 2, he had to hide the evidence in a safe place. Step 3, he had to talk to the right people. But first, he had to do one thing. He had to figure out who was behind it. Afternoon, Elijah went into town. It was a small town in North Carolina, Pine Ridge, population around 15,000. Mostly white, but the southern neighborhoods were mostly black. And the social divide was clear. Elijah went straight to Marcus Jennings' house. The address was in the files. It was a small, neat house. There were children's toys in the yard. He knocked on the door. A woman opened it, in her mid-30s, with a nervous look. "Yes? Are you Mrs. Jennings?" Elijah asked. His voice was calm but serious. "Who are you?" "My name is Elijah. I need to talk to Marcus. It's very important." The woman hesitated. She looked Elijah up and down. A black man, military-bearing, serious face. A large dog beside him. "Marcus isn't home. He's at work." "Where does he work?" "Why do you ask?" Elijah took a deep breath. He had to look her straight in the eye. "Because your husband is being followed. He's being filed." "And I need to tell him that." The woman's face paled. "What are you saying?" "Please tell him. Tonight at 7 o'clock, he should find me on the bench in Riverside Park. He should come alone. I'll explain everything to him." Elijah turned back. Shadow followed him. The woman stood frozen in the doorway. Evening, 7 p.m., Riverside Park. Elijah had arrived early. Shadow was with him. The park was quiet. The air had turned cold. No one else was around. At 7:15 p.m., a man appeared. Mid-30s, athletic build, alert eyes. Marcus Jennings. Elijah stood up. He didn't wave. He just nodded. Marcus approached. He kept his distance. "Are you the one? The man who said strange things to my wife?" "I'm Elijah." "Sit down, please." Marcus didn't sit down. "I don't know who you are. But if this is a trap, it's not a trap." Elijah opened his backpack. He took out a file. He handed it over. "This is your file." Marcus took it suspiciously. He opened it. He looked at the first page. His eyes widened. "This? What is this?" "The police's secret file on you. You're being watched for 3 years. You and 46 other people." Marcus quickly flipped through the pages. He saw his own photos. He read the notes. His face flushed. "How? Where did you find this?" "In a burned-out police car." "In the woods." "Someone tried to destroy the files." "But they couldn't destroy them all." Marcus closed the file. He looked at Elijah. His eyes held shock, anger, fear. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because I can't do anything alone. But with you, with other people, maybe we can change something." Marcus was silent for a long time. Then he slowly sat down. Shadow approached. He rested his head in Marcus's hand. The man looked at the dog, then at Elijah. "Who are you really?" "I'm a soldier, retired. I came back from the war, and now I want to fight the right war." Marcus smiled. It was a bitter smile. "You know what? I felt it for years, that I was being followed, watched, but I thought I was going crazy. Everyone said I was paranoid." "You weren't paranoid." "No, I was right." Marcus stood up. He extended his hand to Elijah. "I'll help. But on one condition." "What is it?" "Not just me. We have to warn everyone. All 47 of them. All of them. And then we have to act together." Elijah shook his hand. "Deal." And so it began. A veteran, a dog, a file box, and people searching for the truth. But the story had only just begun, because the powerful wouldn't let their secrets be revealed, and Elijah Brooks was entering the most dangerous battle of his life. The next day, Elijah's cabin was now like a headquarters. Marcus had arrived early in the morning. He had brought two others with him. Elijah recognized one from the files, Shanice Carter, the young teacher. The other was DeAndre Williams, a local journalist. He worked for a small community newspaper, but was an honest man. Elijah let them in. Shadow sniffed each of them carefully. They weren't a threat. The dog retreated to the corner, but his eyes remained on the door. The files were spread out on the table. Elijah had given each of them a copy. "There are 47 people in these files," Elijah began. His voice was low but firm. "All of them are black. None have serious criminal records, but they're all being watched. Some for 3 years." Shanice looked at her file. Her hands were shaking. "It says here, teacher with radical tendencies. Insight students. I just teach kids their rights. I teach history." Marcus touched her shoulder. "I know, we're all just doing our jobs. But to some people that's dangerous." DeAndre was taking notes. "Where did you get these documents?" he asked Elijah. "In a burned-out police car in the woods. Someone tried to destroy them, but I rescued them in time. So these are real. From the police?" "Yes, the logos, the seals, the reports, all official, and backed up by a daily logbook." Elijah showed him the notebook too. DeAndre quickly scanned the pages. His face darkened. This is terrible. Chief Walker's name is in it. "So these orders came from the top." Marcus took a sharp breath. "Walker is still the chief, and half his men are loyal to him. If we take these documents straight to the police, they'll bury them." "Then what do we take them to?" asked Shanice. Her voice cracked. Elijah leaned forward. Resting his hands on the table, he looked at all three of them. "Here's my plan. First, we need to warn all 47 people. We need to show them the files. Then we need to organize a meeting, a big one open to the public. We'll call the press. Not just DeAndre's newspaper, state newspapers, news channels. We'll show them these documents. There will be so many witnesses they won't be able to object," DeAndre thought. "The risk is huge. What if they say these files are fake, or claim you stole them? That's why we have to keep the originals hidden. We'll work with copies. And if possible, we need to find someone on the inside, a cop with a guilty conscience, to testify." Marcus nodded. "I know a few officers, good people, but they're scared. The system is powerful. It's normal for them to be scared," Elijah said. "I'm scared too, but this is the right thing to do." Shanice wiped her eyes. She was trying not to cry. "What about our families? When we do this, we become targets. How will I protect my children?" Elijah looked at her directly. "I'll protect them." All three were surprised. "How?" asked Marcus. "There's one thing I learned in war. The best defense is to be visible. If you hide, they can harm you silently. But if you're out in the open, if everyone is watching, they can't touch you." DeAndre took notes. "So open warfare?" "Yes, but a fair fight." For the next 3 days, Elijah and his team didn't stop. Marcus reached out to people on the list. Elijah visited some, handed them files, explained the situation. Most were in shock. Some cried. Some were angry. But they all understood. We're the target, just because we're black. Shanice, meanwhile, quietly took action on social media. Without naming names directly, she posted cryptic messages. What if you knew you were being watched? What if you had a file? People started wondering. Comments came in. Questions were asked. Shanice didn't respond, but the seed had been planted. DeAndre, meanwhile, sought out his sources. He spoke with state-level journalists. He reached out to a civil rights attorney, Lorraine Hughes, a well-known figure. He showed her the documents. She was immediately interested. "This is huge," she said on the phone. "If this is true, it's a federal crime, a constitutional violation. A lawsuit could be filed. But first we have to be safe," DeAndre added. "You're right. I'll come." On the 4th day, Lorraine Hughes arrived in town. Not at Elijah's cabin. They met somewhere safer, in the basement of Marcus's church. Reverend Isaiah Brown was there too, the 68-year-old pastor, listed in the files as a source of unrest. Lorraine examined the documents for hours. Then she looked up. "These are real, legally usable. But we have a problem." "What is it?" Marcus asked. "The chain, the ownership of the documents. Elijah got these from an unofficial source, a burned-out car. The defense could say the chain of evidence is broken." Elijah leaned forward. "So they're useless?" "No, they're useful. But it will take too long to get to court. We need to speed this up. It needs to explode in the media. There needs to be public pressure." Reverend Brown spoke slowly. "I can organize a meeting at the church on Sunday morning. The congregation will come. We'll invite the press too." Lorraine nodded. "Good, but it shouldn't just be us. Others need to speak too. The people in the files. They need to tell their stories." Shanice chimed in. "I'll speak." "I'm scared, but I have to." Marcus added, "Me too. We all have to speak." Elijah stepped back. Shadow came to his side. He stroked the dog's head. The plan was set. Sunday morning. The big reveal. But before Sunday arrived, something would go wrong. That night, Elijah returned to his cabin. Shadow was with him. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Elijah stopped. He turned on his flashlight. Shadow growled, "What is it, boy?" The dog lunged forward, not aggressively but warningly. Elijah followed him. His cabin door was open. Elijah's heart raced. He hadn't left the door open. He never did. He approached slowly. Shadow was ahead of him. Elijah wasn't carrying a gun, but he had a knife in his belt. He went inside. He scanned with his flashlight. Everything was in disarray. Files had been thrown about. His desk was overturned. His stove was out. His bed was rumpled, but the worst part was on the wall, a message spray-painted in red. "Shut up or I'll get your family." Elijah's blood ran cold. Family. Did he mean his family? Marcus's? Shanice's? Shadow was still growling. He was looking at the door. Someone had just left. Elijah rushed outside. He shone his flashlight into the woods. He saw a shadow running away fast. "Stop!" he yelled. But the person didn't stop. Shadow ran. Elijah followed. But the shadow was fast. He heard a motorcycle. Then it was gone. Shadow turned back. Elijah was out of breath. He was being followed. And now the threat was clear. Elijah returned to the cabin. He took out his phone. The signal was weak, but he called Marcus. "Marcus, listen. Someone broke into my cabin. They left a threatening message. They could target families." Marcus's voice sounded tense. "What are we going to do? We need to move up the plan. We can't wait until Sunday, tomorrow. Tomorrow we need to make a statement to the press. That's too soon. We have no other choice. If we wait, they'll silence us. We need to act now." A long silence. Then Marcus replied, "Okay, tomorrow afternoon in front of the church. I'll call the press. I'll be there too." He hung up the phone. He looked at Shadow. "We won't sleep tonight, kid. We'll keep watch." The dog understood. He went to the door. Eyes open, Elijah packed his backpack. He took the original files, all of them. He had to hide them somewhere else. The cabin was no longer safe. He waited until morning. Every sound, every movement kept him alert. The battle had begun, and there was no turning back. The next day, in the afternoon, the front of Pine Ridge Community Church was packed. Hundreds of people, mostly from black neighborhoods, but there were whites too in support. There were signs, "We want justice, police must be held accountable, end systemic racism." The press had come too. 3 local TV stations, 2 state newspapers. DeAndre's friends. A microphone was set up on the church steps. Elijah stood in the back. Shadow was beside him. He had blended into the crowd, trying not to draw attention. But his eyes were everywhere. The police were there too, 4 cars, 8 officers. They were watching. They looked tense. Marcus approached the microphone. He took a deep breath. He spoke. "We are gathered here today to reveal a terrible truth." The crowd fell silent. For the past 3 years, the Pine Ridge Police Department has illegally profiled, monitored and targeted 47 black citizens. People gasped. Permas rose. Marcus held the files aloft. "Here is the evidence. Police reports. Secret notes, photographs. All of us innocent people were followed simply because we are black." Angry voices rose from the crowd. "This is unacceptable. This is a violation of the Constitution, and we will not remain silent." A storm of applause. Then Shanice came to the microphone. Her voice trembled, but she was determined. "I am a teacher. I teach children history, justice, rights. And for that I've been labeled radical. My file says dangerous, but I'm not dangerous. Your system is dangerous." More applause. Reverend Brown also spoke. "I am 68 years old. I have dedicated my life to this community. And now I learn that my own police have been monitoring me as a source of unrest." What unrest? The demand for justice? The crowd stood up. Police cars approached. Just then Elijah noticed something. At the back of the crowd there was a man. He was dressed in civilian clothes, but he had a radio in his ear. He was a cop, and he was signaling someone. Shadow noticed, too. He growled. Elijah turned around. Another man, phone in hand. He was filming, but his camera wasn't focused on the speakers. It was focused on Elijah. They were following him. Elijah looked at Shadow. "Don't leave me." Marcus finished his speech. "And now, we will share these documents with the media and lawyers. We want justice. We want accountability. We want change." The crowd shouted, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Police cars advanced. A megaphone blared, "This is an unauthorized gathering, dispersed, otherwise we will intervene." Marcus did not back down. "We are exercising our constitutional right, the freedom of peaceful assembly." Lorraine Hughes, a lawyer, stepped forward. "I am Lorraine Hughes, the legal advisor for this meeting. Everyone here is complying with the law. Threats are unacceptable." The police seemed hesitant, but then another vehicle arrived from behind. Chief Walker was getting out. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man in his 50s. His face was stern. His eyes were cold. He approached the microphone, came right up to Marcus. He looked him in the face. "These documents are fake slander. Whoever gave them to you manipulated you." Boos rose from the crowd. Marcus didn't back down. "The documents bear your signature." "Chief Walker, they were initiated on your orders." Walker smiled. It was a nasty smile. "Prove it." Marcus opened the file. He showed the page. The camera zoomed in. Walker's face changed. For a moment panic flashed in his eyes, but he quickly composed himself. "The chain of custody for these documents is broken. They're inadmissible in court." Lorraine interjected. "Admissibility is for the court to decide, Chief Walker, but the public has already seen them." And then Walker did something. He pointed at Elijah. There's the man who stole the documents." All eyes turned to Elijah. Elijah froze. Shadow growled. Walker shouted, "That man took the documents without permission. He stole government property. Arrest him." 2 police officers walked towards Elijah. The crowd became agitated. Some stepped in front of Elijah. "No, he exposed those documents. He's a hero." But the police were coming. Marcus shouted into the microphone. "Elijah Brooks acted on behalf of this community. We will protect him." Elijah stepped back. Shadow was beside him. But the police were approaching. Lorraine, the lawyer, intervened. "Do you have an arrest warrant? Do you have legal grounds?" Walker didn't answer. He just gestured. The police surrounded Elijah. Elijah raised his hands. "I'm not resisting." "But what you're doing is unlawful." One of the officers took out the handcuffs, but just then a voice rose from the crowd. "I'm a witness." Everyone turned. A young officer, uniformed, in his 20s, stepped forward. His face was wet with sweat. His hand was shaking. I saw those files. Had headquarters. They were kept secret. In Chief Walker's office. I took a copy too. My conscience wouldn't let me rest." Walker's face flushed. "Officer Collins." "Shut up," but Collins didn't stop. "No, enough is enough. We watched people, innocent people, just because they were black. This is wrong. I don't want to be a part of it." The crowd applauded. The cameras focused on Collins. Walker shouted, "You're suspended." "Now!" But another cop stepped forward after Collins. Then another. 3 cops refused to follow orders. Chief Walker was now alone. Lorraine Hughes, as the lawyer, had the final word. "Chief Walker, we demand a federal investigation. These documents, these witnesses, this community, they all want you to be held accountable." Walker backed away. His face was pale. He got into his car. But before leaving, he looked at Elijah. There was a threat in his eyes. This isn't over. Elijah didn't return to his cabin that night. Marcus hid him in the church. Shadow was with him. He wasn't safe, but he wasn't alone. DeAndre's article was published on his newspaper's website. Secret police files, the racist surveillance scandal at Pine Ridge state newspapers, had picked up the story. It exploded on social media. Lorraine was preparing a federal complaint, but Elijah knew. The real battle was yet to come. Chief Walker and his men were about to lose their power, and those cornered. Powerful figures were the most dangerous. The federal investigation began 3 days later. 2 agents from the FBI arrived, Agent Sarah Monroe and Agent David Chen. They seemed serious, professional, impartial. They set up a temporary office in the church. They examined files. They interviewed people. Elijah spoke with them for 2 hours. He told them everything. About the burned car, the files, the notebook. Shadow waited at his feet. The agents looked at the dog but didn't ask any questions. "Mr. Brooks," said Agent Monroe, "these documents indicate a serious crime. But we have a problem with you too. What is it? You obtained these documents without official authority. Technically, you broke the chain of custody." Elijah leaned forward. "Agent Monroe, that car was on fire. Someone was deliberately destroying evidence. I just saved it. I understand. But the defense will use that in court. They'll say evidence obtained without permission." Agent Chen interjected. "But you have an advantage." Officer Collins' testimony. "He's an insider. And he saw the same files. That strengthens your case." Monroe nodded. "We'll question Chief Walker. Some officers too. If we find more evidence from the inside, the case will be solid." Elijah breathed a sigh of relief. But just then Monroe added one more thing. "You're not safe, Mr. Brooks. Walker and his team could target you. I recommend you get protection." "No. Why?" "Because if I hide, people will be afraid. I need to be visible. The community needs to see me." Monroe frowned but didn't argue. "I understand. But be careful. Walker is cornered, and cornered people are unpredictable." That night, Elijah stayed at the church again. But he couldn't sleep. Shadow was keeping watch by the door. The dog was restless too. His ears perked up at every sound. Elijah looked out the window. The street was quiet. But he noticed a vehicle. It was moving slowly. No license plate. Tinted windows. The vehicle passed in front of the church. It stopped, then drove away. Elijah's hair stood on end. He was being watched. He took out his phone. He called Marcus. "Marcus, talk to your family. Tell them to be careful. If they see anything suspicious, call me immediately." "What happened?" "I'm being followed." "They might be watching you too." "Okay, I'll be careful." He hung up. He looked at Shadow. "It's going to be a long night, buddy." Morning came. Elijah left the church early. He had to go into town. He had people to talk to. But he took Shadow with him. He didn't want to leave the dog alone. When he reached the main street, he noticed something. People were looking at him. Some looked supportive, nodding, smiling. But some looked hostile, especially those from the white neighborhoods. A man bumped into his shoulder as he passed. "Troublemaker," he muttered. Elijah didn't stop. He kept walking. But then he saw something else. At the market, a poster was hanging in the window. "Elijah Brooks wanted, theft and false accusation." Elijah froze. He approached the poster. In small print below it read, "Issued by the Pine Ridge Police Department." Shadow growled. Elijah took a deep breath. His anger rose, but he suppressed it. This was war. A dirty war. The store owner came out, an old white man. He looked at Elijah. "I'm sorry, son. The police told me to put this up. If I didn't, they said they'd give me trouble with my license." Elijah nodded. "I understand. It's not your fault." The man relaxed. Then he whispered, "But I support what you're doing." "You're doing the right thing." Elijah smiled. It was a small but genuine smile. "Thank you." In the afternoon, Elijah went to Marcus's house. Marcus's wife, Angela, opened the door. Her face was worried. "Elijah, come in quickly." He went inside. Shadow came too. Angela locked the door. "What happened?" "A car came this morning. 2 men, they watched us. They took pictures. Then they left." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Where's Marcus?" "He's at work." "But I'm scared." "The kids are scared too." Elijah looked at Angela. There were tears in her eyes. "Angela, nothing will happen to you. I promise." "How can you guarantee that?" "Because they can't really hurt you. They're just trying to scare you. If they do anything to you, public opinion will tear them apart. The FBI is already here. They can't touch you." Angela shook her head, unconvinced. Elijah left the house. He walked to the center with Shadow. He needed to stop by a few more places, but as he walked, he noticed 2 men were following him. They were dressed in civilian clothes, but it was obvious. They were police. Elijah turned. He looked at them. The men stopped. Their faces were expressionless. Elijah approached. "Is there a problem?" One of the men spoke. "We're observing you. For public safety. Are you threatening me?" "No, just doing our job." Elijah took a step back. But he was seething inside. It was psychological warfare, pressure, intimidation. But Elijah wouldn't be intimidated. Evening came. Elijah returned to the church. But Marcus was waiting at the door. His face was grim. What happened? Elijah asked. They arrested Shanice. What? An hour ago. They went to her house for organizing an illegal meeting. Elijah trembled with rage. This is nonsense. The meeting was legal. Lorraine confirmed it. I know. But they're looking for an excuse. They're trying to scare Shanice. Elijah took out his phone. He called Lorraine. Lorraine, Shanice has been arrested. Intervene immediately. I know. I'm already on my way. But Elijah, be careful. You're a target too. Understood, he hung up. He looked at Marcus. No one should be alone tonight. Gather the community. Meet at the church. Let's be safe. Marcus nodded. I'm notifying everyone. An hour later, the church was full. Over 50 people. The people from the files, their families, supporters. They were all scared, but they were together. Elijah addressed them. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we must understand fear is their weapon. They use it to silence us. People listened. But we are not silent people. We are the righteous ones. And we stand at the right time. The FBI is here. The media is watching. The world sees us. They can no longer play in the shadows. Reverend Brown stood up. Elijah is right. We are not alone. God is with us. Justice is with us. People applauded, but they were still anxious. Just then the door opened. Lorraine entered. Shanice was with her. She had been released. The crowd stood up. Shanice was crying, but she was strong. They released me, she said, because they had no evidence. They were just trying to scare me. But I'm not scared anymore. People applauded. Lorraine took the microphone. Friends, I have good news. The FBI has officially placed Chief Walker under investigation. Some officers have begun giving statements. The system is cracking, hope rose. But Elijah remained cautious. A cracked system is the most dangerous one. Late at night, everyone left. Only Elijah, Shadow, Marcus, and Lorraine remained. What happens next? Marcus asked. Lorraine replied, the FBI will complete its investigation. It might take a month. Then the formal charges will come. Walker and some officers will likely be removed from duty. What about the community? Elijah asked. The community will begin to heal. But it won't be easy. Trust must be rebuilt. Marcus nodded. What about you, Elijah? What will you do next? Elijah paused. He hadn't really thought about it. He hadn't made plans for himself. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to the forest. Alone. Shadow is with me. Lorraine smiled. Elijah, you need people here. And they need you. Loneliness isn't the answer. Elijah didn't respond. But something stirred inside him. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. But that night, Shadow grew restless. Elijah was sleeping in the church bed. But the dog got up. He looked at the door. He growled. Elijah woke up. There was no gun, but he grabbed his knife. What is it, boy? Shadow was waiting at the door. He lifted his nose in the air. Smoke. Elijah ran to the window. He looked outside. There was a fire in the church's backyard. A small fire. It hadn't grown yet. But it had been deliberately set. Elijah opened the door. He rushed outside. Shadow was ahead of him. He tried to put out the fire with water with dirt. Shadow sniffed around. He was looking for someone and he found them. Shadow growled. He ran into the bushes. A man was running away, masked. Elijah came from behind. But the man was fast. He jumped on a motorcycle. He was gone. Shadow came back. He had something in his mouth. The man had dropped it. A police badge. Elijah took the badge. It had a number. Number 4347. Now there was evidence. He went to the FBI in the morning. He gave them the badge. He showed them the fire photos. Agent Monroe looked serious. This badge belongs to Officer Derek Hale, one of Walker's most loyal men. Are you going to arrest him? Yes, arson is a serious crime. But Elijah, this is critical now. The attacks are increasing. I want us to put you under protection. No, I told you Elijah. Monroe spoke sternly. Next time it might not just be fire. You could be seriously hurt, or the community could be. Elijah was silent. He knew he was right. Fine, but only at night. During the day, I'll be with people. Agreed. After that day, everything accelerated. The FBI arrested Officer Hale. Chief Walker was placed on administrative leave. 3 more officers testified. They explained how the system worked. The media exploded. It made national news. Racial police scandal in small town, 47 black citizens monitored. Protests grew. Support poured in nationwide, but so did backlash. White nationalist groups started coming to Pine Ridge. To defend the police, they said. But really they came to intimidate. Tensions escalated. A cross was burned in front of Marcus's house. Shanice's car was vandalized. Threatening letters arrived for Reverend Brown. Elijah, along with Shadow, was trying to protect everyone. But one man, one dog couldn't be everywhere. And then that night came, Friday night. Exactly midnight. Elijah was sleeping in the church under FBI protection. But Shadow was restless. He growled. He watched the door. Elijah woke up. The phone rang. It was Marcus. Elijah, something's happening in the neighborhood. There's a crowd, masked people threatening homes. Elijah jumped up. Where are you? Elm Street, hurry. Elijah woke up the FBI agent. They drove there together. Shadow came too. When they arrived on Elm Street, they saw a horrific scene. A group of 20-30 people, mostly white, mostly masked, were walking down the street. They were carrying torches. They were shouting, "We defend our police. Disruptors get out." People watched in horror from their houses. Children were crying. There was a police car, but they were just watching. They weren't intervening. Elijah was furious. Agent Monroe called for backup on the radio. FBI dispersed. This is an illegal demonstration. The group turned around. Their leader, a large tattooed man, stepped forward. We're just exercising our rights. Freedom of speech, not the freedom to threaten others. The group moved. They approached Elijah and Monroe's car. Shadow growled. The dog looked ready to attack. Elijah held him back. Calm down, boy. Not yet, but the group kept approaching. Elijah got out of the car. Shadow was by his side. Back off, Elijah said. His voice was low but sharp. Who are you? Asked the leader. I'm someone who protects this neighborhood. You're a soldier, aren't you? Then you should support the police. I support justice. The leader smiled. It was a nasty smile. Let's see how many of you there are. Just then another voice was heard. We're all here. Elijah turned. Marcus was coming. With him were 20 people, neighborhood residents. They had no guns, no sticks, just cell phones. They were recording. Then another group arrived, Shanice and her students. They were recording too. Then Reverend Brown and the church congregation. Suddenly the street was packed. Hundreds of people, not just black people, whites, Hispanics, Asians, all together. The group leader's face changed. They had lost the numbers game, and the FBI backup arrived, 6 vehicles. Sirens blaring, Agent Monroe shouted through a megaphone, "Federal order, disperse immediately or you will be arrested." The group broke up. They started to run. The FBI caught some. The rest disappeared into the darkness. The neighborhood fell silent. People hugged each other. Some were crying, but tears of joy. Elijah's shoulders slumped. Shadow leaned on him. Marcus came over. He held out his hand. Thank you. Elijah squeezed his hand. Not me, us, all of us together. After the incident on Friday night, Pine Ridge was no longer the same. The FBI investigation deepened. Chief Walker was officially removed from his position. 5 more officers testified. They explained how the system had operated for years, which orders came from whom, and which families received special protection. And each testimony revealed another truth. This was not just the fault of the police. The town's elite were involved too. The mayor, the school principal, local businessmen. They all knew about the system. Some had supported it. Some had turned a blind eye, but none had stopped it. Elijah knew this. But finding proof was another matter. 2 weeks later, something changed in the town. Elijah was walking along the riverbank with Shadow. It was early morning. The air was cold, but the sun was just rising, a golden light hitting the water. Shadow was running freely, happily. The dog was finally starting to relax. The threat had diminished. The FBI was providing protection. The townspeople had come together, but that morning Shadow found something. The dog stopped. He put his nose to the ground. He growled, but not aggressively, curiously. "What is it, boy?" Elijah asked. Shadow ran to the riverbank. There was something among the rocks, half submerged, wet, but there, a suitcase. Elijah approached. The suitcase was old, leather-covered. The lock was broken. It was filled with water, but there were things inside. Elijah reached for the suitcase. It was heavy. He pulled. He dragged it to shore. Shadow watched. His tail wagged slowly. "We found something good," he said. Elijah opened the suitcase. Inside were plastic bags, waterproof, and inside the bags of files, photos, letters. Elijah pulled one out. It was wet but legible. The title, Pine Ridge Private School Admissions Committee. Confidential Notes 2018 to 2024. Elijah's heart raced. He opened the page. There were names, applications, and notes beside them. Jamal Thompson, high test scores, rejected. Reason, not the right family profile. Keisha. Williams, exceptionally talented, rejected. Reason, district quota full. Marcus. Chen, excellent references, accepted. Reason, family made a donation. Elijah opened another file. Inside were photos taken secretly. Our meeting at City Hall. At the table were Mayor Richard Kemper School Superintendent, Dr. Helen Frost businessman William Ashford, and Chief Walker, handwritten beneath the photo, 2022, new policy, keep undesirable families out of school. Neighborhood profiling will be used. Elijah froze. His hands trembled. This wasn't just police pressure. This was structural racism. It was embedded in the education system. Another file, rejected black applications 2018-2024. There were 89 names inside. 9 black children, bright, talented, deserving, but rejected. All of them, and the white children accepted in their place. Lower scores, but from the right families. Elijah stuffed all the files into his bag. Shadow waited beside him. Good job, kid. Very good job. Shadow wagged his tail. But Elijah knew who had thrown this suitcase, and why. He called Marcus immediately. Marcus, I found something big. Come to the church right away. Gather everyone. An hour later, 20 people had gathered at the church. Elijah spread the files on the table. Marcus read them. His face turned white. This is my son's application. It was rejected. They told us insufficient points, but it says here high points, but family is black activist. Shanice found her file too, her brother's son's application. It had been rejected. I don't understand, she said through tears. Why? They're just kids. They just want an education. Lorraine Hughes, the lawyer, examined the files. Her eyes widened. This is a federal crime. Racially discriminatory education. A constitutional violation. And she looked at the photos. If there are meeting photos, that means a conspiracy. Organized crime. Reverend Brown stood up. So the police are just a tool. The real power is above. The rich, the politicians, the educators. Elijah nodded. Yes. And the documents in this suitcase will be the end of them. Marcus asked. So where did this suitcase come from? Who planted it? I don't know. But someone wanted to expose these secrets. Someone on the inside. Maybe their conscience wasn't clear. Maybe they wanted revenge. DeAndre, the reporter, was taking notes. I have to write this story nationally. This isn't just Pine Ridge, it shows the structural problems in the American education system. Lorraine added, I'm going to file a lawsuit too. A class action lawsuit from 89 families. I'll demand compensation and system change. Elijah stepped back. Shadow came to his side. He rested his head on his knee. The war had grown. But it had grown on the right side. The next day, DeAndre's article came out. The truth hidden in the suitcase. Systematic discrimination against children in Pine Ridge. Documents reveal elite conspiracy. It exploded on social media. It made national news. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They all covered it. The headline was everywhere. Racial education scandal. 89 black children deliberately rejected. Reactions poured in. Anger, protests, support, but backlash came too. Mayor Richard Kemper held a press conference. These documents are being misinterpreted. Our school does not discriminate. This is slander, but the reporters were ready. One asked, Mayor Kemper, you're in this photo. What was discussed at this meeting? Kemper sweated. It was just a routine meeting. Keeping unwanted families out of school is routine? Kemper couldn't answer. He ended the press conference. The FBI sprang into action again. Agent Monroe visited Elijah. These documents have expanded our investigation. Now it's not just the police, the city, the school, the business community are all being looked into. How long will it take? A few months. But the outcome is certain. Charges will be filed. Both criminal and civil. Elijah nodded. But what about the town? People are divided. There's no trust. Monroe took a deep breath. That's your job, Elijah. We deliver justice, but you must deliver healing as a community. A week later, Elijah made a decision. He held a community meeting at the church. This time, not just the people in the files, everyone was invited. Whites and blacks alike. 300 people showed up. The church was packed. Some were bitter. Some were ashamed. Some were angry. Elijah stepped up to the microphone. Shadow was beside him. 2 months ago, I was just a lonely man. I had returned from the war. I was running from people. But this dog, Shadow, brought me here. He led me to a secret. The crowd listened. And when we uncovered that secret, we faced terrible truths. The police, the city, the schools, they all served a system. And that system saw some people as unwanted. Silence, but I want to tell you something. No one is unwanted. Applause. This town is divided. But that doesn't have to be the end. We can come together. We can change. But to do that, we must be honest. Elijah paused for a moment. Then he continued, My white neighbors, I ask you, did you benefit from this system? Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you turned a blind eye. But now you know. So what will you do now? There was tension in the church. A man stood up, white, middle-aged, a neighborhood homeowner. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But my son got into that school. And now I understand, maybe he took another child's place. Tears came. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Marcus stood up. Apology accepted. But more than an apology is needed. Action is needed. Another woman stood up, the principal's secretary, when I wrote those documents, by order. But my conscience wasn't clear. I threw that suitcase away, so someone would find it and the truth would come out. The crowd was shocked. The woman was crying, I don't want your forgiveness. I just wanted to tell the truth. Shanice stood up. She approached the woman. She hugged her. Thank you. Thank you for your courage, the church applauded. Some were crying. Some were hugging. The healing had begun. 3 months later, the FBI investigation was complete. The results were announced. Chief Walker. Federal charges, civil rights violations, abuse of official position Mayor Kemper, removed from office. Under legal investigation, school superintendent Dr. Frost resigned. License suspended businessman Ashford stepped down from company management, facing legal proceedings, and most importantly, the Pine Ridge Police Department was subjected to federal reform. A new chief was appointed, an African-American woman, Chief Diane Harper. Experienced, honest, community-focused, the school system changed too. An independent commission was established, equal representation, transparent application process, and for the 89 rejected children, collective compensation, priority admission, scholarship opportunities. Elijah was treated like a hero in town those days, but he didn't feel like one. One evening, he and Marcus were sitting by the river. Shadow was playing in the water. How are you feeling? Marcus asked. Tired, but at peace. Why at peace? Because I'm not alone anymore. When I came back from the war, I felt disconnected from the world. But you, Shanice, Reverend everyone, you gave me a family. Marcus smiled. You gave us something to hope. Shadow came running. He was wet. He splashed water on Elijah. They both laughed. So what are you going to do now? Marcus asked. I'm staying here. The cabin is still standing. But I'm not hiding anymore. Maybe we'll set up a community center, a place that helps veterans, works with dogs. That's a good idea. I'll help. 6 months later, Pine Ridge was unrecognizable. The Brooks Veterans and Dog Center opened. Elijah and Marcus founded it together. They were training therapy dogs for veterans with PTSD. Shadow had become the lead trainer, teaching new dogs how to be human helpers. Shanice was appointed as the new school principal. Her first task, to find all the rejected children and apologize. Reverend Brown organized community peace meetings. Every week, people of different races gathered and talked. Trust was being rebuilt, slowly but surely. Lorraine Hughes won her case, $18 million in damages. The money became an education fund for the black community, and DeAndre received a Pulitzer nomination. His story had sparked a national movement and structural racism in education. 1 year later, Elijah went with Shadow to the place where he had found that first suitcase, the riverbank. Early morning. This place changed everything for us, he said to the dog. You brought me here. And then you found the suitcase. And then everything changed. Shadow wagged his tail. As if he understood, Elijah took something out of his pocket, a small metal plaque. It read, "Shadow Hero Dog, our friend who saved the Pine Ridge community." He attached the plaque to Shadow's collar. "There, now everyone will know. You're not just a dog, you're a savior," Shadow barked, a happy, proud bark. That evening, a huge celebration was held in the town square. They called it the Festival of Justice and Healing. Hundreds of people had come. Every race, every age. Elijah was called to the stage. A storm of applause. "Friends," he began. "A year ago I was a stranger here, but you took me into your family. And together we did something. We uncovered the truth." Applause. "But the truth is only the beginning. The real challenge is living with that truth. To change, to heal." And we did that. Elijah looked at Shadow. The dog sat beside him, calm, proud. A friend of mine once said, "Hope is not a luxury, it's a necessity." And I believe that. Because without hope, this town wouldn't be here today. The crowd rose to their feet. Marcus, Shanice, Reverend Brown, they all came on stage. They stood beside Elijah, and then something happened. A child stepped forward from the crowd. 10 years old, black, his eyes shining. "Mr. Elijah?" he said in a shy voice. "Yes, my friend. I'm one of the rejected children. But this year I was accepted, and now I have dreams." "Thank you." Elijah knelt down. He looked into the child's eyes. "No, my friend, I owe you thanks, because you remind me why I fight." The child hugged Elijah. The crowd applauded. There were tears, but tears of joy. Shadow approached the child. He licked his face. The child laughed. That night Elijah returned to his cabin. He was no longer alone. Marcus, Shanice, Reverend, they all stopped by from time to time. But that night it was just him and Shadow. He lit the stove. He sat down. He stared into the fire. A year ago he had been alone in that firelight. He was running. From the past, from people, from himself. But now it was different. He had a purpose now. He had a community. He had a family. Shadow rested his head on Elijah's knee. "You know, kid," Elijah said quietly, "you saved me. That night, when I found that burned-out car, I didn't just find the files. I found myself." Shadow's eyes locked with Elijah's. And then the suitcase. Then the kids. Then all of them. Elijah smiled. It was a real smile. "When I came back from the war, I thought I was finished. But I was wrong. My real battle was here. And this time we won." Shadow wagged his tail. Elijah looked outside, out the window. The stars were shining. The forest was silent. But now that silence wasn't loneliness. It was peace. Epilogue. 2 years later, Elijah stood in the garden of the Brooks Veterans and Dog Center. There were 15 dogs, all trained, all paired with a veteran. Shadow was now 7 years old. He had slowed down a bit, but he was still strong. Still the leader. A new veteran arrived. A young woman, 28 years old, back from Afghanistan. Her name was Jasmine. She had PTSD. She couldn't trust people. Elijah introduced her to Shadow. "This is Shadow. He's a soldier too. Maybe he's seen more than you have." Jasmine looked at the dog. Shadow approached. He touched her hand with his nose. Tears welled up in Jasmine's eyes. He seems to understand me." "He does, because he was there too." Jasmine sank to the ground. She hugged Shadow. She cried, a long, deep, cleansing cry. Elijah stepped back. But he was smiling. The cycle was complete. Once a dog had saved a man. Now that man saved others with dogs. But the story didn't end there. Because that afternoon, Elijah went to the riverbank. It was a habit now. Once a week he went to the place where he had found that first suitcase. Shadow was with him. He was old, but still curious. And that day Shadow found something again. Between the rocks, half buried. Another suitcase. Elijah froze. His heart raced. "No, it can't be," but Shadow insisted. He dug. He pulled it out. Elijah approached the suitcase. He opened it. Inside were more files, more photos, but this time something else. Riverside County Child Protective Services, confidential records, unjust interventions against black families, 2015-2025. Elijah's breath caught. Another scandal, another system, another fight for justice. Shadow looked at him, wagged his tail. Elijah took a deep breath, then smiled. "Okay, kid, I get it. The work never ends." He put the suitcase in his bag, started walking toward town, because justice, once won, never ends. Justice is won anew every day, and Elijah Brooks, together with Shadow, would continue this fight. Forever. The camera pulls away. Elijah and Shadow walk from the river toward town. The sun is setting. Golden light envelops them. In the background, the community center is visible. People are outside. Children playing, adults talking, dogs running. A voice, Elijah's voice. People ask me, "Aren't you tired? Haven't you given up?" Elijah and Shadow reach the center's door. They go inside. Everyone greets them, clapping, smiling. And I say this. Shadow goes to Jasmine. The woman hugs the dog. She smiles. Justice isn't a destination. It's a journey. Elijah watches the dogs playing with the children. Marcus comes up to him. He pats him on the shoulder. And on this journey, I am not alone. The camera shows the entire community, every race, every age, together. Because true strength lies in being together. Shadow returns to Elijah's side. He sits down, proud, peaceful, and true courage lies in not giving up. This story is dedicated to the real heroes who fight for justice every day. To the veterans, to the dogs, to the communities, and to everyone who quietly seeks the truth. If this story moved you, share it, because real change begins with one person's courage, but it is completed with everyone's support. Elijah sits at the table late at night. He examines the files from the new suitcase. Shadow sleeps beside him. He opens a file. He sees a photo, a woman being forcibly separated from her children. Written underneath. Reason: unsuitable living conditions. Real reason: black mother sought help. Elijah slams his fist on the table. His anger rises, then subsides. He picks up the phone. He calls Marcus. "Marcus, I found something new. We need to meet tomorrow." Marcus's voice: "What did you find?" "The child welfare system. They're targeting black families. They're taking the children. It's unjust." Silence, then. "God, this is worse. I know, but we won't stay silent, right?" "Never." He hangs up the phone. Shadow wakes up. He lifts his head. Elijah looks at him. "There's more work to be done, kid. Are you ready?" Shadow stands up. He wags his tail, and the story continues.